Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I wanted to talk to you guys real quick about something that happened. It was a while ago. It was, I want to say 6 or 8 months ago. Anyway, so I was contacted by this guy. His name is Everett. I want to say it's Morier, or is it More? It's not More. It's Morier. Anyway, Everett, and Everett had written he'd seen me on Concrete actually, and he'd watched a few of the episodes several times, and so he said he wanted to interview me for basically like an online magazine that he ran, and I'll put the link below. It's called 543magazine.com is the actual link. What's interesting is I thought it was he told me a story and I thought it was kind of cool because basically the magazine was about, he said I think it started as a blog or something, and he started writing these just different things that he used to say. Basically it was like 543 things I want to teach my sons. And he ended up starting a magazine where I guess he started listing those things, or I want to say it started as a blog, but anyway, I don't know the specifics, but it ended up being a magazine where he would write articles. So he ended up writing this article, and we talked, and it was basically about just about people, overcoming their issues and just growing, and one of the things was just based on the interviews that he'd seen of me. He felt like I had, I don't know, made some improvements or something. And so we had a conversation, and he read an article on me that was in the Atlantic, and so we had a good talk on the phone, and he wanted to interview me. So he interviewed me, and he wrote a magazine piece, and it was basically just about kind of like finding yourself and just changing your overall thought process, I guess. And what's interesting is he ended up writing this book called 33 Cecils. The book ended up doing really well. It ended up becoming a required reading in a bunch of high schools. And so Sunset River Productions ended up optioning the story, and they're supposed to be making a movie about it. So it's really a cool story. But what's so funny about it, the only reason I even mention this is it's funny because he ended up launching a YouTube channel. I think he's got an Instagram too. It's called Rewriting Everett. And it's basically a channel about just a transformation and redemption, and just changing your overall life for the better, I think. And one of his first interviews was me. So he ended up doing this little doodle thing, where it's like a little commercial for the channel, I guess. And he put it on Instagram and YouTube, and he sent it to me and asked me if I would send it, if I could help promote the channel. And I thought it was kind of cool, and I love the little animation. The animation's so cool. But he just sent it to me about kind of like our interaction, and basically our interaction was, he interviewed me once, then he interviewed me for the actual channel, but one of the things that happened was he had mentioned that he wanted to lose weight. He was trying to kind of retrain himself on how to lose weight and how to do this and how to do that and how to eat better. And I was like, oh, okay. So we had this little conversation. Well, then like the next day, when I would go to the gym and I would get on the elliptical, I would take a picture of it and I would shoot it off to him and say, what have you done today to work on your weight? So I started hammering away at him, kind of just trying to chip away at his psyche and get him in the right frame of mind, because he needs to lose like 100 pounds. I think he's lost 30, or did you say 30 or 50 pounds at this point? This has been this has been several months that I've been doing this. I don't do it every day, but I do it whenever I think about it. I do it at least 3-4 times a week. I hit him up. I wanted to let you guys see the video, and I'm going to post the video real quick here and let you see it. But it's like 3.5 minutes, but it's actually a really kind of a cutesy little video. And what I like about it is it makes me look good. But look, it's a cool channel. He's a cool guy, and it's a cool concept, and I like it, and I thought you guys might like it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. It'd be great if you subscribe to him. I think you'll like the video. So I'm going to play the video right now.
Hey, this is Everett, and a few months ago I interviewed and wrote an article about a man named Matt Cox. Now, if you've never heard of Matt Cox, he's getting a lot of exposure lately, and it's not unusual for an online interview with Matt to receive 1 million views or more. See, Matt Cox is a con man who at one time was the Secret Service's most wanted fugitive. He stole about $15 million in a very elaborate series of real estate schemes and he's estimated to have stolen $8 million while he was on the run. Matt was eventually caught, spent 12 years in prison, and is now out and telling his stories, as well as the dozen or so fascinating criminals that he got exclusive interviews with while in prison. Matt's career has changed from that of being a criminal to being a true crime writer. And he has a very unique, charismatic, and unusual view of everything, life. So when we began planning Rewiring Everett, Matt was our very first podcast guest. Bad camera, crappy video and all. And I shared with Matt my challenge with weight and the desire to fix a lot of things that were broken in my life. We did the interview. Matt was great. And the next morning he sent me a text of a photo of he had just ran 5 miles in about 30 minutes. And it wasn't even 6 in the morning yet. And in the text he wrote, "What have you done today?" Thought it was funny, and I sent him a thumbs up, and he quickly replied, "No, I'm asking you, what have you done about your weight today?" And I thought about this, and I tried to shrug it off, and I texted back, "Well, I'm traveling for work, and the gym at the hotel isn't really," but he wasn't having it. He texted me right back. "You don't need a gym at the hotel," he said. "Get outside, get walking, get moving." And before I could respond, he sent me a few texts that hit me right between the eyes. He said, "Why don't you want to be the man your wife married? Why don't you want to be the dad your kids deserve?" And I mean, how do you argue with that? So I reluctantly went outside and walked. The next morning, the same thing. A text from Matt of his treadmill showing what he had done already and the question, "What have you done?" And after 3 or 4 days, I knew I had to have an answer for Matt on what was done and then what I've eaten, because he was going to ask about that too. And he wasn't exactly nice about it either. He was like a drill sergeant. If I walked 7 miles, why couldn't I do 8? If I walked 5 miles, why do I want to be fat? If I had a salad, he'd ask how many carbs I ate that day. I guess I could have lied to him, but how do you lie to a con man? There's always that thought that he'll know. So here's the point to all this. There's an old phrase that goes, "When the student is ready, the teacher will come." Now, I'm not saying Matt is the sole driver for my path to wellness, but he is someone who is holding me very, very accountable. And he decided to do that totally on his own. Now, I could have gotten a friend or a family member and asked them to do the very same. There'd be no skin in the game. If I told my friend or one of my kids that I didn't want to do this health thing anymore, they might balk at first, make fun of me, try to talk me out of it, but they would be okay with it and life would move on. I would have lost nothing. But Matt appointed himself this role of accountability partner, and he had nothing to gain from it and gets nothing out of it. And I'm not doing it for him, I'm doing it for the people that need me, that Matt reminds me of all the time. Because there is a huge difference between my wife saying, "Why don't you want to be the man I married?" which would break my heart, and Matt saying it. Either way, I'm doing it for my wife, but one way would break me, and the other would drive me. So here's the moral to all this. Share what your goals are with those around you. Don't recruit someone to hold you accountable, because it works best if they come up with the idea themselves, but dropping a few hints is fine. And then be ready when they show up. And don't be surprised when they do and where they come from. They could be a co-worker, a neighbor, or the Secret Service's once most wanted fugitive.
I thought the video was cool, and this is it. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate you guys checking it out. Thanks.